Oh, we're on one. There we are. We should talk about the Olympics, and we have a fellow with us this morning who is going to give us the lowdown on 2026 and 2030. Here in Utah, of course, we have the wonderful memory of the year 2002, and we still talk about the Olympics, and we certainly would love to have them back. An important part of the initiative is social media, and our pal Austin is here to give us the very latest on what's happening with the OEC, the Olympic Exploratory Committee, and of course the continuing conversations that we have here in Utah to make the return of the Olympics a reality. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. I would vote for you.
Okay.
You should run for something because your pinstripe suit and your USA Olympic pin are making you look eminently electable.
Yeah, maybe someday I'll run for something.
Well, you're certainly running on behalf of the Olympics. And before we get into details, talk a little bit about your passion for the Olympics. I think I saw in my notes that you were 8 when the Olympics were here before. Is that the...
Yeah, well, I was born in '93, and so, you know, I think my birthday was actually during the Olympics of 2002, so it was 8/9 when the Olympics were here last, and so I've just followed them ever since and have really come to love the Utah Olympic movement and different things involved in that.
And tell us about your progress from just, right, I mean, some people love the Olympics more than others, but like you, I remember magical moments throughout my childhood, but coming from a different sport and not really being involved and not being in an amazing winter sports paradise like we are here in Utah. Where did you get the passion to be involved as you are today? Were you involved in any official capacities before, or is there a confluence between the Olympic movement and social media? Obviously, social media is your bailiwick and your concern and your expertise. Where did the kind of your effort and involvement come from?
Yeah, well, you know, I've really been passionate about, there's really 2 things I'm passionate about, which are sports and kind of social economic topic type issues, and the Olympics is the perfect blend of those 2 things.
Truly.
And so, you know, back in 2012 is really when my campaign really took off. I watched the 10-year anniversary of the 2002 Olympics, where they had the governor as well as Mitt Romney and others who were part of the 2002 Olympics. They kind of hosted a party, and I watched those types of things. They talked about going for the Olympics again, and I've heard that since 2002. I always thought that was kind of odd that the same city would host the Olympics more than once. And so I kind of did some research, and it turns out that, I mean, the history gets a little foggy around World War II and stuff like that, but if Salt Lake were to host the Olympics again, they'd be the 13th, 14th, 15th city, like I said, depending on the World War II history, to host the Olympics more than once again. And so I really tried to look for ways that I can involve myself in that movement, and a social media campaign, a grassroots social media campaign, is the best way I found to involve myself.
And of course, as we discussed before we came on camera, infrastructure is a big part of simply of the ability to bid seriously to host the Olympics. And here in Salt Lake with our Nexus, and of course it's not just about Park City, it's also about our friends out at Snow Basin who host the downhill events out there, and of course the Olympic Oval is down in Salt Lake City. But infrastructure-wise, we have amazing resources, and amazing resources that have only improved in the years since we did host once before.
Yeah, it's definitely true. I think we probably honestly have the best Olympic legacy in the world. I wouldn't be surprised. I've seen a lot of, just as recent as Rio, a lot of venues falling apart and stuff like that. I've seen videos of a bobsled track in Europe that was graffitied and had mountain bikers on it and different things like that. And so we honestly really do have the best Olympic legacy there is. And when I went to the Olympic Exploratory meeting last week, we discussed those sort of things with the venues and stuff like that, and Salt Lake would save around $400 to $500 million just because they can use the 2002 venues compared to other cities who don't have those venues.
And not only the disrepair, but also, as we discussed earlier, the negative economic impact on a lot of these areas that have hosted in the past, and we discussed Greece Athens, and the fact that, you know, in the ensuing years they've had terrible economic difficulties. And I'm not drawing a causality with the Olympics, but by the same token, in some ways you go, okay, well, the Centenary Olympics and the birthplace of the modern Olympics in Athens, and all those things make great sense. But in the end, and I recall terrible logistical challenges in Athens with moving athletes around and all those kinds of things, that the cost in the long run of proposing and earning the ability to host an Olympics can have deleterious effects for decades to come. And yet, as you say, as a legacy site, the UOP is fantastic. We just had Olympic hopefuls on in the first hour of the show, one of whom is a Park City native, Will Rhodes, and we have made an amazing success out of turning Olympic venues into a centerpiece for the for the American Olympic programs, and the prospect, as we're ever more concerned about the financial side of things, to save $400 or $500 million, because we not only have these facilities, but they're still state of the art.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, there's a few touch-ups here and there that need to be done and stuff like that to make them more. I guess there's different changes in the dimensions and things like that for the Olympics since 2002. So there's a few changes that need to be done, but that's minuscule compared to building, you know, a whole new venue. And not only that, that's one of the things that International Olympic Committee is looking for now. Is they don't want to leave a city off like Rio or Athens or, you know, the several other cities that have not done well because of the Olympics, but they really want cities that are able to save money and able to be fiscally responsible.
So talk about social media and about your participation. How do you come up with an action plan, and what are your measurement goals or measurement outcomes that you're looking for in terms of creating enthusiasm, to use social media parlance, to creating impressions, calls to action, those kinds of things?
Yeah, well, for us, it's not your traditional social media campaign like any company. We're not selling a product or anything like that necessarily. Really, a conversion for us is a like if you're on Facebook, or a follow if you're on Twitter or on Instagram or whatever. And so those are the real big measurements that we take note of. We definitely love it when people engage with our posts and different things like that, and we have several posts every week and stuff like that. But really, a like is a conversion for us.
And you're running your own grassroots campaign, but obviously, as we discussed, recent meeting of the Olympic Exploratory Committee, and that is comprised of government, business leaders, and I don't think I'm making a criticism of anyone when I say that when you look at age demographics and economic demographics, in a world where social media is ever more important and people are creating careers out of social media, an Olympic Exploratory Committee is comprised of people who will tend to be on the end of the least engaged with and in social media. Talk about how you interface with the OEC, with these kind of leaders who, of course, these are the people who are going to make it happen, who are able to go out and raise the funds for the actual bid process. How do you interface as somebody who says, hey man, I'm a young guy who knows social media, and this is only going to become more important and more a part of the overall media landscape as we get closer to 2026 and 2030?
Yeah, well, I've had some conversations with people on the Exploratory Committee, and have thankfully recognized the importance of social media. I think LA 2028 so far is a great example. They have almost 2 million followers, and we're more than 10 years away from those Olympics. Right. And so I think that's a very good piece of evidence to take why social media is so important. Not only that, I've talked to them about how Facebook is the 4th largest population in the world, behind like China and India or whoever else, and stuff like that, and Twitter's not too far behind as well. And so I definitely think that people, especially the committee itself, recognizing the importance of social media, and me running a grassroots campaign since 2012 has really positioned me in a good spot to help them when the time comes.
Fantastic. Well, it's very important stuff. We were just talking in our last segment about how pervasive and in a positive way social media is. On that regard, give folks your handle on all the social media so they can immediately take that call to action and go follow you and be involved in the Olympic movement.
Yeah, well, it's at the @ SLC 2026-2030. We want to be reflective of what the Exploratory Committee is looking at, which is both 2026 and 2030 at this point. And so that's really where people can go and follow us and like our different posts and things like that. And a lot of people have reached out to me and asked, how can I involve myself with the committee, with the Olympics and things like that? And honestly, the committee is fully staffed and doing their thing, and their reports due in February, so there's not a lot of time between now and then to get involved. But being involved in social media and helping more people follow these things and be more engaged with the Utah Olympic movement is really the best thing that you can do for the Olympic movement at this point.
Like, share, follow.
Right.
Fantastic.
All right.
Awesome. Nice to see you. Thanks for all you do on behalf of Salt Lake City to bring the Olympics back to our beloved Utah. And we'll look forward to seeing you again soon and having more progress reports.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
All right. Go, go, Salt Lake. Go, go, Olympics. We're going to take a break. We'll wrap the show right after this. Please stay tuned.